Righty now.
All righty then. It's that time every week that we look forward to, do we not?
We sure do.
We look forward to this time every week. And you are listening to Go Yard, and I'm Mama Mac, and you're Dr. Angel. You got it right.
You did.
I know who you are.
You do.
And what is this show all about?
We are continuing our series on codependency and healthy relationships.
You know what? I think a lot of people have heard the term but don't know what it means.
Oh, yes. You're right. A lot of people do hear the term. So codependency, kind of simply stated, is when our value and our feelings are tied into another person.
Aha. Yes. And we're going to give a lot of examples of codependent thinking tonight.
Yes, we are.
And so we encourage you to grab a piece of paper and a pen, because these will help you look at your own life, or maybe those around you that you're wondering, what's going on with that behavior. And as you think about these, because we've got 18 to give you, and I'm not sure we'll get through them all because we're going to want to discuss them somewhat. But there's a lot of examples of codependent thinking that will help you understand some of the problems you get yourself into if you are codependent, right?
Or why you experience some of the pain and hardship you do in your relationships.
Oh, pain and hardship.
And not just your romantic ones. They come into your friendship, your professional, your family, like all of our relationships. When we have this, it kind of interferes with them all.
How do you get codependency? Do you just do you catch it like a virus, or?
No, you do not catch it like a virus.
Okay, how do you get it?
We really talked about that in our first show, kind of some of the things. And there's not a one thing that causes it. There's things that can make people more vulnerable to becoming codependent. A lot of it is, coming up in an unhealthy home environment, having a parent with a substance abuse issue, or being emotionally unavailable, not letting us grow and learn that our individual value and worth comes from within us and not based on other people.
All right. So this is part 3 in this series. We did part 1 2 weeks ago. Last week I was out of town, and so we did a rerun. But we did a rerun on codependency that we've done before. So this is not a topic we've never discussed in 7 years. We have discussed this, and we are in our 7th year. And I know that's hard to believe. It is for me.
It's very hard to believe.
Speaking of that, on April 11th, we're going to celebrate, Ed, our 14th year on our Sunday show, Living the Good Life, on April 11th. And we're going to have a party and all that kind of stuff. Cannot believe we've been on the air here in this station 14 years for that show and 7 almost for this. Hard to believe.
Very hard.
Yeah, but we do it because we love it.
Totally love it.
Radio gets in your blood, don't you think?
It's contagious.
Yes. And when I first approached you about doing this show, Go Yard, several years ago, you said, "Who, me? I can't talk on the radio."
I did say that.
Yes, you were so scared. But now you're bold and you say whatever you want to and you relax, right? That's what this is all about.
Yes, it is.
Just relaxing, having a good time. So we're glad you're listening to us. You can go to tantalknetwork.com, go to the podcast page, and go to the name of this show, Go Yard, which means, Dr. Angel,
hitting a home run in life.
Whoa, speaking of that, our Rays are doing fairly good in spring training.
Are they?
Yeah.
Good.
And so there's more to come, like opening day soon.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's great. Exciting. Yeah. So anyway, it's nice to hear the crack of the bat, right?
Yes, it is. It's so nice.
Yeah. So anyway, here we go. Examples of codependent thinking. Do you have your paper and a pen? Because you're going to want to write some of these down. These are the ways people think when they do have a problem with codependency. And is there a stigma against codependency, Dr. Angel?
Yeah, there is a stigma against codependency. I think, first of all, the word has been thrown out a lot.
Yeah.
And I think it's been thrown out a lot inappropriately.
Inappropriately?
Sure.
How? Give us an example.
Well, I think the word, a lot of times people misunderstand exactly what codependency means. And I think, they just look at unhealthy relationships. Oh, he must be codependent. And that's not true. You can have unhealthy relationships and not have codependency. But when you have codependency, your relationships aren't healthy. So, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
I followed that
Did you
train of
follow
thought.
that train
I
of thought?
certainly did. I'm not sure they did, but I did. Yeah,
You know, I think it's kind of become I don't know, like a hot button word, kind of like gaslighting is now. Like we're
yeah.
using a lot of these button phrases, but we're not always using them in the right way. And so, and it becomes a word of kind of like condemnation, of shame, like there's something wrong with you, you're codependent, you know, you're broken.
I think there is a stigma to
Yeah,
it.
it's a huge stigma. It's like this broken stigma.
Right. And so even though we are exposing through this show what it really means, it doesn't mean we're pointing a finger at people that, oh, you're broken and you know, there's no hope for you in any relationship. We're not saying that.
Not at all. In fact,
what are we saying?
Oh my goodness, I couldn't imagine having a conversation where there was no hope for something. That would be so hard.
Right.
No, what we're saying is there is hope.
Yeah.
And if you find that you are falling into codependency, you can get out and get healthy and heal from it and move forward.
And not all relationships that one has are codependent.
No.
You can have normal, healthy relationships, and then you can have codependent ones at the same time, can't you?
Yes, you can.
Why is that? How can that be? You mean to tell me that codependent label is just not like for every relationship?
No, for some people it can, you know, cross the spectrum of all their relationships. For others it can be just with a family member or a romantic partner or their children or a friend, or so it can be very regionalized, I guess, and relationship specific.
Okay. So let's talk about the first example of codependent thinking. Everything's my fault.
Oh,
Explain why a person would think that way. Because I mean, in your natural scheme of thinking, you think, how can that be that everything's my fault? But some people do think that.
They absolutely do. I call them, they take over responsibility.
Over responsibility. Okay.
So they're the ones who take too much responsibility for when things go wrong and think everything's tied to them when something's wrong.
Okay.
And so I must have done something wrong. So here's the thing. So like when they offend somebody, they say, I'm sorry.
Oh, it's my fault.
And when the other person offends them, they still say, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
See where I'm going
So they
with
take
that?
the responsibility for the other person's
because
behavior.
they felt offended instead of letting the other person take responsibility.
But is it because they think down inside, perhaps I did something to make them act that way? Because look at violent, which that was our first series on Go Yard in 2014, was this whole thing of physical violence, right? And physical abuse. And a lot of times people that are victims of that think they did something that caused that person to act that way.
Sure. And so when we're thinking everything's our fault, yeah, we feel like, oh, well, if I wasn't so sensitive, that wouldn't have hurt my feelings. So they're just being normal and something's wrong with me. Like no matter what happens, we feel like it's our fault.
Okay.
And so we're overtaking responsibility. And the truth is, it's not. When there's relationships, there's going to be conflicts, there's going to be disagreements and miscommunication. And there's going to be both people who have a responsibility in that. One person is never the complete responsibility.
Okay. Is it possible to have only one person, let's say romantic relationship, one person relationship codependent, the other person not? And is it possible that both are codependent?
Okay, first of all, yes and yes.
That's what I thought.
So yes, so it is possible to have one person codependent and one person not. That leads to a lot of problems.
Okay.
And depending on how healthy the boundaries is of the person who's not codependent, the other person's going to feel abandoned and left out. And when that person who's not codependent is doing other things or not including them, I mean, when both of them are codependent, it gets this like learned helplessness starts emerging from those relationships.
Explain learned helplessness.
So we just kind of sit and wallow in our pain and our misery and our bad situation. We want it to get better, but we don't really put in the effort or make the changes to get it better. We just kind of want magically to get better. I literally had a conversation this week with someone who was in this dual codependent relationship and needed things to change. And I'm like, there isn't a magic, we have no fairy godmother. Like, we have to take some steps to make these things happen for ourselves. Right. But sometimes that learned helplessness really creeps into that dual.
Explain learned helplessness. What does that mean? And how can you slip into that in a relationship?
Sure. It's where we learn to be helpless, pretty much, where we give away our power to our life, to a situation, to another person.
Because somebody's really controlling?
It could be that, but it may not be that. It may not be someone's control at all. We might just give our power away to external circumstances in life and feel like everything's my fault. Why should I try? I can't do this. And we're defeated. We never tried.
So when you have an attitude of everything's my fault, how can you ever succeed in a relationship, really? Because you're all the time blaming yourself. I shouldn't have said that. Oh, my. You go into this anxiety mode. I've seen people do this.
Yes, they do.
And they get into, I don't know why I said that. I guess I was thinking that. Well, is that how you feel? Yeah, that's how I feel. Well, okay, then you have a right to say what you feel, right?
Exactly. We have a right to say what we feel.
But then they start blaming themselves for causing an eruption or a disruption in the relationship.
Yes, they do. And, I can't believe I felt that way. Why am I so sensitive? I don't know why this always happens to me. And they start like rabbit trailing down this trail that's growing and growing, and they're
rabbit trailing.
Yeah, they're just rabbit trailing down these, growing all these things that's their fault, and it's just normal human emotions and experiences.
Okay, so examples of codependent thinking. If you're writing these down, number 1, everything's my fault. Number 2 is
I'm worthless.
I'm worthless. Oh.
That's a big one, because with codependency, our value is based on the other person.
Oh, that's huge. People, you need to write that down. That's a bell ringer. Can you reach the bell? Yeah.
I will reach the bell.
Can you reach the bell?
Our value is based on the other person.
There you go. All right. So when our value is based on the other person, we have a hard time seeing that we are worth anything, right? That we deserve to be treated correctly. We deserve to not be beaten physically or emotionally, right?
Sure. But it also can go, it definitely can go into that realm, but it doesn't have to get in that severe. It can be as simple as, if that person doesn't want to spend time with me, I'm worthless.
Oh, yeah, I'm worthless because nobody wants to spend time with me. Woe is me.
Right. That friend has other friends. There's something wrong with me. That you're dating, and how dating works out, 99% of those relationships aren't really going very many places these days, especially with online dating, and they take every one of those so personally. Why don't they want me? What's wrong with me? Instead of saying, this person isn't really a good person for me to date because they don't bring anything to the table, or they don't, bring what I want.
We'll throw in this dating component in there. When a person is desperate to be in a relationship and perhaps even married, a lot of times they will put up with this kind of behavior. Somebody that's a needy person, or they may be the one that's the codependent needy person, because they're so desperate to find someone.
Yeah, I was going to back you up. If I'm desperate to find someone and be married, it's because I don't have worth within
that's
myself.
That's what I tried to say. I said it backwards,
okay.
didn't I?
Good.
So why don't you say it the right way?
So what we'll do is, I will make compromises on the quality of person I want in my life just to have somebody so that I can feel worthwhile.
There you go. That's what I meant to say.
I'll take anyone. I'll take
That's
if you're breathing. All right, let's
go. All right. You may be ugly, but or you may be mean.
You may be whatever, X, Y, Z, and it can happen with friends. And like with a compromise, they'll take any standard to have somebody, because having somebody is better than being alone.
I know people who are out there on online dating. We did a show on that recently with your dad.
Yes, we did.
Who is a serial
online dater.
There you go. And so often when we have in our head what we want physically from that person, or emotionally what they should be like, or job wise how much money they should have, and I know people that are they regularly online date. That's not me, but I know people that do, and they can so easily on the very first time they meet somebody pick them apart. Well, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. Right?
Sure.
And what that does is it just shoots any chance of any kind of, maybe there's a lot of good things about the person, but if there's one of those that are on their list, quote unquote, it can sabotage the whole thing.
Oh, sure.
Right.
Absolutely can. And, that's the whole thing with online dating. There's just so many dynamics to it that it causes a lot of all kinds of stuff that can go many directions wrong. But when I am feeling my value is only because someone's accepting me,
right,
I am really going to lower that bar.
Or that somebody's telling me how beautiful I am or how cute I am or, oh, I've thought about you every day since I met you, that kind of stuff, right?
Right. So if you're that person that needs constant
reinforcement,
verbally reinforcement, you look great or how great of a job all the time, that's where your value is.
That means you may be a codependent.
That does mean that.
Yes, you may be a codependent.
Yes.
The third one, examples of codependent thinking.
I shouldn't have any needs. I shouldn't spend money or time on myself.
The codependents that I think I know in my life, you're one of them. No, that's just a joke. They really don't think that, how should I say this? They think people should see the value.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
They do.
The ones I know are more of, I am all this and a bag of chips. Can't you see how great I am?
Well, it's a falsity because they don't really believe it.
Oh.
Yes.
That's what makes them codependent, because they don't really believe it?
Performance that they put on.
Okay.
That I am so whatever, fill in the blank. But deep down, they don't really believe it, because if they believed it, it wouldn't matter if someone acknowledged it or not. They would know who they are.
Because they would know who they are.
And value who they are.
So codependents are very insecure. Is that what you're trying to say?
They are. And they will go into, so we talked about I'm not important. I shouldn't have needs, or I shouldn't spend money on myself. But we can also see this on the opposite tone of, I have, my eyelashes done, my nails are done, this is done, my that is done.
Right.
Fill in the blank. As a way to kind of overcompensate for the lack of internalized value. Okay,
so question Dr. Angel, who's in practice and has been now for 2 years and is doing very well, by the way. Do these people actually think, the ones that are spending more money on themselves and whatever, do they really think that they might be codependent, or do they think that this is normal behavior?
No, I don't believe that they see it that way. And it doesn't mean just because you go take care of yourself, that's what it is.
No, it doesn't.
That there tends to be some of, so either they're doing nothing for themselves, or they're doing what creates, I call it, putting a pretty paint on the exterior of the house kind of look. They do the things on the outside to compensate for the lack of what they have inside.
Okay. So with that said, do you think a lot of codependents don't see their inferiority complex, let's say?
No, they do not. I do not see that they see that. In fact, a lot of them, because they have that, they're not having that value within themselves, they get stuck in that martyr syndrome.
Okay.
Where, they spend so much time, as soon as they connect with somebody, is I'm doing this for them and I'm doing that for them and I'm sacrificing for them, whatever that is.
But that comes back and bites you in the butt, doesn't it?
Of course.
Because if you're doing everything for that person, expect them to reward you with how great you are and how much they love you,
right,
and they don't do that,
then you're the martyr. Very much so.
So are codependents usually martyrs?
Yes, they very much can take that martyr syndrome.
How does that impact a relationship, a new relationship?
Well, new relationship, I don't know that it will probably be going very far. Usually when we have a martyr syndrome, a codependent might hook up with someone who is a user, and they love to find codependents because they can find someone that'll do anything for them if they can just give little crumbs of what that codependent needs to keep them on the line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So they're very vulnerable to getting taken advantage of.
But then they become very hurt.
Yes, they do.
And how does that hurt translate on the inside? Don't they feel rejection?
Oh, they feel rejection. It's my fault. I'm worthless. What's wrong with me? Let's just go down the list.
Yeah, we've come full circle to those things, right? And so that,
instead of, I just had somebody who was not of good character and used me, and I'm, wow.
Okay, so how about I know somebody that has come to that realization on this person and that person they were dating and then this person, and then you hear them say, I want that person back. Like, really? You don't remember how you were used?
Yeah, oftentimes they're not.
Are codependents not aware of how much people use them?
They're more aware of their loneliness.
Ah, yes, that's the answer right there. You got that one right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I got 100 on tonight's
Yeah,
test.
you did. So they are more aware of their own hurt, right? Because it's more of a self-centered thing.
Sure, it
right?
is.
It's all about me.
It's about getting my need met, and my need is I need to feel loved and valued.
Codependency is all about me?
It really is all about me.
Really, when you break it down.
Yeah.
Because it appears to be all about you.
But it's really...
the other person, not
right.
you.
I know
but the other person, it appears to look like it's that person they are so wrapped up with.
But it's really...
They're wrapped up with them, but...
Because you are filling my need.
Because you're fulfilling my need. Right. So, and if they stop doing that or don't say all the right things that make the codependent feel better about themselves, pretty soon it's rocky city in that relationship, right?
Oh, it definitely gets very rocky when that starts to happen.
Yeah.
Sure does. And that's why those relationships are so unhealthy and they're so emotionally destructive in so many ways, because we can't grow in a relationship when I'm constantly needing you to fulfill a deep emotional need in me.
So there really is no perfect relationship, is there?
Well, there's no perfect relationship, no.
But there can be some very fulfilling ones.
And healthy ones.
And so you picked the song tonight by Whitney Houston.
Yes, I did.
The Greatest Love.
Yes, I did.
Why? Is that because codependents are always looking for the greatest love?
Well, because I think we have to really realize our own internal value of who we are as a person, regardless if the people around us can see it or acknowledge it or not, knowing who we are and being confident in that value. And if we don't like something, then working to change that. But our value isn't if I have 100 friends or one friend. My value is the same.
Okay. So then why'd you pick that song?
Because I believe that it's important for us to start with ourselves.
Let's roll the song.
Entertaining and informative radio for the Sunshine State.
Dr. Angel Falzoni specializes in a variety of therapeutic areas, including trauma, depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, stress management, self-esteem, interpersonal relationships, ADHD, behavioral addictions, as well as spirituality issues. A Florida native, she holds multiple degrees, including a bachelor's in education and philosophy, a Master's of Arts in Professional Counseling and Marriage and Family Therapy, and a PhD in Psychology. Dr. Angel is also a Florida licensed mental health counselor. She has worked with youth and adolescents for 14 plus years and has worked extensively in women's mental health for the past 6 years. She has worked in agencies providing mental health services to family and youth at high risk. Dr. Angel is an accomplished psychotherapist who works with children, teens, adults, couples, and families. Dr. Angel has advanced training and experience in working with LGBTQ-specific individuals and issues. Dr. Angel can help you. Just call for an appointment at 727-501-6557 or online at drangelsdevelopment.com. Dr. Angel Falzoni, support for individuals, couples, and families. 727-501-6557.
Prompt professional service is what you will receive when you allow Marcia McAllister of Charles Rittenberg Realty to help find that perfect home or list your home for sale. With over 23 years of experience in the Tampa Bay area, you will enjoy a smooth transaction from start to finish. Call Marcia today at 727-417-0707. Now is a great time to buy or sell a home. Call Marcia McAllister at 727-417-0707.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
And what does that say to you about the greatest love, you know?
Well, I think that song says that there's a lot that I think that song says, but that greatest love is us having security in our love. And
right.
if we fail, if we succeed, it's in us. And it's,
right.
It doesn't change our value, but also to think of where are we leading our kids? What are we teaching them about their value?
Right.
Where does their value come from? Does their value come from a good report card that makes mom and dad happy? Does their value come from, you know what I'm saying?
Trophies.
The trophies, the success, because that's not where their value comes from.
Where does their value come from, Dr.
Their value
Angel?
comes from who they are as a person.
Right, who they are as a person.
And so not only is it us learning that for us, but it's also us teaching the next generation of where their value comes from.
Yeah, it really is. Welcome back to the second half of Go Yard. Dr. Angel here with me, Mama Mac. And we are exploring examples of codependent thinking because we believe it's a very common problem.
I believe it is too.
And it's a problem that causes a lot of problems in relationships.
It sure causes so much ruffle in relationships. Sure does.
Especially personal relationships. Why is that?
Well, because we are using someone else to meet our needs, our emotional needs and our emotional gaps and finding our value. And so it becomes an addiction almost of that relationship. It can.
Yeah.
I mean, it can get to a lot of degrees. Now, there's a lot of degrees of codependency too. And not everybody fits every part of it either. Like there's a lot of nuances here, but it can be very destructive.
Oh, it can be.
And smothering.
And basically the codependent person wants that person they're codependent with, dependent with to have all their needs met, right?
They want that person to be their full need meter. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Mm-hmm.
They want the spouse or the lover or whoever that is,
or the
friend or whatever,
member, whoever,
to see their own needs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And fulfill them without having to be told.
Exactly. Mind reading's a part of that. Sure. And
mind reading. We jest when we say mind reading, but to explain what you mean by that.
Well, no.
Because that's a big part of the problem.
It's kind of mind reading. So we're expecting you should just know what I need.
You should know what I need and do it.
If you love me, you would know.
Right.
So it's kind of that love test or that relationship test or whatever, you want to put on it. And so they spend a lot of times, our codependent relationships, they spend a huge amount of time together.
Oh, yeah.
And if they're not physically together, they're electronically tied together. They're texting back and forth.
That just drives me crazy. Here's what I mean. I've had friends that you go to the beach, okay, I'd rather go by myself. But when I am actually with people at the beach And if it's a codependent person, they are constantly texting that lover, that spouse, that
friend, family member, whoever,
whatever it is, constantly, because they've got to be so
connected.
Well, they have to be reinforced that they are being thought about as much as they are thinking about that one.
That's true. So they have to have that reinforcement. And then there also comes in the fear of, I got to make sure that they're not
with somebody
else.
Right. And so if they're totally preoccupied with me and they're texting me and when do I get to see you? Oh, 1 more hour. I can't wait. That kind of crap. I mean, I do believe that is crap.
And I have certain people in my life that I love very much that I will not go do certain activities with because they're not doing that with me. They're connected with somebody else the entire time.
The whole time, sitting there texting. Right.
So my response is, why are we doing this?
Don't you think texting has made codependency worse?
Oh, goodness gracious. Yes, because there's no break.
Goodness gracious. Yes, you really feel that,
I really do. It really is.
Because before, without texting, you got to actually have a phone call, right?
Yeah.
But this way you can be playing like you're listening to the person that you're at the beach with or whatever. And instead you're really texting the lover and saying all kinds of stuff or whatever.
Or whoever. Right. And then we look at how long it takes for them to respond. It is like the electronic leash of leashes. They are now tracking each other through certain social media apps where you can see people's locations.
Yeah, that's disgusting.
So they know where that person is.
That is really disgusting.
It is. And they're not, I don't believe.
You talk about a leash.
It is a leash.
Yeah.
And it's not, this isn't for control. This is for that codependency need to be met.
Because if he's not thinking about me all the time, then why did it go? Doesn't matter that he's at work and he may have been in an important meeting, but how come it took you an hour and a half to respond to me?
Yes.
Right?
And that whole time they're waiting for that response. They're going through this. Oh my gosh, what did I do? It's all my fault. I'm da 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 da. Like they're going through this. And then as soon as the response comes in, their emotions go from depressed to elated, cloud 9.
And people, if this is you may be codependent.
You see it because I'll literally be sitting with somebody in the counseling room while they haven't heard back from their person they're codependent with, and they're just, oh my goodness, just super low, sad, crying, emotional, and all of a sudden they'll get that message come in and they'll look at their phone and whoosh, like everything's cured now.
Yeah, I've been at lunch different times with people like that, and you can tell they're engaging in conversation with you, but they are really not there with you because they're thinking in their head, why hasn't he called me back? Why hasn't he texted me back? Where is he? I bet he's off with so-and-so. Codependent thinking goes, it's been my experience that people I've known that have been severely codependent, that they go straight to the worst case scenario.
They do find
maybe not always, but
true.
I have seen it many times. Catastrophizing, that's that word I love.
I know
because
you do.
You don't know how to spell it, so I love it. But catastrophizing, it means they are going to the worst place of, oh, I bet she's off doing this or that, or he's doing this or right.
Yes. So they do. And so it just is emotional roller coasters of really low lows and really high highs in connection with that relationship where the codependency is. And we talked a lot about romantic ones, but I've watched this between parents and their grown children.
Oh, yeah.
It can come, it can go in any relationship. So it's not just tied to romantic
That's exactly
ones.
Right. It can.
I've literally watched a woman FaceTiming her grown adult son constantly 5 or 6 times, sitting in a meeting, FaceTiming her adult son because she had to talk to him right then, right there in the middle of a business meeting. Seriously.
Now that's just not well.
That's codependent.
Oh, wow. Wow. I've seen it more with personal relationships with people that are like dating somebody or married to somebody, and they're constantly.
It can come in all kinds of forms. I've watched it in all kinds.
It is a real strong form of control, don't you believe?
I think in the heart, if you take it down to the root, it is a form of control. Sure.
Okay, why did you hesitate?
Well, because when I think control, I don't want it to come across in the kind of domestic violence control way.
Yeah, no.
This is a different type of control.
Explain
This is
it.
the control to have my need met and to feel like I
So
matter.
the codependent person, and it's a mess if both of you are codependent, right?
Oh yeah.
Don't you think that double?
It's a real mess when they're both codependent, and it's really hard when you aren't the codependent person and somebody you love and value is codependent,
because they expect so much from you
they
all
have
the
no
time.
boundaries, and they have
boundaries.
right, and you're constantly having to kind of be the bad guy, so to speak. You're constantly having to set that boundary and hurt their feelings over and over because you're not
Which
gonna
will
be on their
probably
emotional
result in
leash.
them breaking up with you.
Well, and sometimes it's a family member or a friend,
Right,
and
sure.
it's not a breakup situation, but
Right.
it can be very taxing to be I can tell you this from experience, so, of being the person who isn't codependent, loving some people in my life who are.
Would you tell us if you were the person that was codependent?
I would absolutely be honest with that.
I'm just teasing you.
But
you're not codependent. No, I've not seen that in you. But I know people who are,
Yes.
okay? And I have been the victim of that.
Yeah, it's very draining.
Yeah.
And you have to deal with them when you have a lot of energy to set those boundaries. So
And I've been the victim of friendships where somebody always wants to know where you are.
oh my goodness.
I mean, not a romantic thing, just like, well, I thought you were doing that, or I thought you were going there, or who are you spending time with, or
Yeah,
you know what I
those
mean?
weird questions, and you're
that
just like,
that are like,
flag, flag, flag. That's
Right.
not okay.
right. So, and I know people who are back to the people that online date, right?
Mm-hmm.
That even after 2 dates or 3 dates or 1 date, they're texting all the time and saying, "Oh, what are you doing now? Do you have time to talk to me?" And they've known them less than a week.
Oh, yes.
I mean,
Oh, no.
seriously, this is
And
a
they're
pet peeve of
constantly,
mine.
and they're up talking late at night. And
Oh,
through
all
the
night
day.
long, yeah, all
No,
night long.
it gets even better. I love this line because I've heard it so many times in the counseling room. We've only known each other for 3 weeks, but we spent so much time talking.
Yes.
It's like we've been together for 6 months.
Exactly.
Have you heard that one before?
Oh, totally, all the time.
Big red flag that we have codependency happening.
Yes, and I've only had 3 dates with him, but we've talked. I've counted it up, and in the last 2 weeks, we have talked 84 hours.
Exactly.
That's an exaggeration.
I know what you're going,
But
yes.
but like, what do you have to talk about for 25 hours? Let's make it more realistic. 25 hours, right? Not 84. What do you have to talk about? Oh, there's so much. There's so much. We bonded. And I'm thinking, this guy just wants something from you.
I hear you.
I won't even say what I was thinking.
Sure, I appreciate that. I'm sure our
You-
listeners do, but they can probably guess what
You
you're
think
thinking.
they can guess that?
I think they can.
Okay. So examples of codependent thinking. Number 4, it's not that important. I can wait. I don't really need it. Whatever you want is fine. I want you to be happy.
This is my big pet peeve.
Oh, mine too. Oh, I hate it when you act like this, Angel.
Whatever you want, and they become that chameleon. Oh, we'll go. Where do you like to go?
Yeah, what do you want to
Constantly.
eat?
There's a few. There's a politeness, but when it's constantly the other person that you're wanting to go where they want and eat what they want, even though you hate it, and
Here's the trap in that, okay? Because I've gotten myself in those traps before, and so I've known situations where people say, no, wherever you want to eat is fine. And then later on down the road, when they're mad about something, you always wanted to go to that Italian place.
exactly.
And I hated it. And why didn't you speak up?
I know. I'm telling you, if I could name a restaurant I don't know and I don't care, we could be really rich because everybody says that. I don't know. I don't care.
Oh,
Where
that
do
would
you
be the
wanna
name of the
go,
restaurant.
right?
Yeah.
Right?
Mhm.
Because
But it always comes out on down the road. You
they really
always,
hated it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
you always got your way.
you've always picked, and yes, when things start to fall apart.
So when you're not the codependent one and the other person is, and they're trying to please you, so they say, no, you pick. I don't care. I like every kind of food. right? And then
that's that martyr syndrome coming up.
Oh, it's the martyr syndrome.
And
okay.
And the chameleon, they start to become that chameleon. They can't disrupt this. I need your acceptance. I need your, approval. So I need to not rock the boat at all. So I'm going to be everything you want and need me to be.
But the problem with that, if you're codependent and you're trying to be so super sensitive and loving and always do what they want to do, is eventually the resentment begins to build up on the inside of you and you will pop.
Yeah, because you're being a martyr, and you're being a martyr, and that's where that martyr syndrome comes.
You will pop.
And
you will come
pop.
to that point, and you will say what you think.
Absolutely.
I have.
Yeah, I'm glad you
many,
popped, huh?
many years ago. Many years ago. But yes, I mean, because I was that person.
Okay.
So I can talk about this because I was that person because I was so in love.
I hear you, and I understand, but you're right. That's exactly
I hope
what
my
happens.
kids aren't hearing that because I really was in love, right?
Okay.
I really was. Okay. And so I really did want to please. But gradually I began to realize that that's not making peace. I thought it was.
Sure.
If he always gets his way on something, if whoever you're with always gets their way, you think you're doing them a big favor. At your expense, right?
Exactly.
What's wrong with that thinking?
Well, first of all, it's not healthy thinking.
Right.
Because we can't have that. We have feelings, they need to be heard. We have thoughts, there's going to be conflicts, and we have to be able to bring honesty to the table, and that's not honesty.
Well, number 4 here is it's not that important. So the codependent thinks, oh, my opinion isn't that important.
Right.
I can wait. I can have my turn to go to my favorite restaurant some other time. I don't really need to go there. I just really don't. Whatever you want is fine. I just want you to be happy. Oh, that's all I want. I want you to be happy. Right.
Exactly.
But resentment takes root during that.
Yes. And then
this doesn't work in the long run. It may work in a short run, right?
Yes.
You may have a happy lover there for a while, but eventually.
Oh, yes, it does. I mean, this is where that passive aggressiveness is usually how it starts to come out when they start to pop. They start getting very passive aggressive.
Would you explain passive aggressive behavior?
Sure,
Some people may not know what you mean by that.
Where they're passively doing something to get back at you in a way. So they are manipulating situations. A lot of passive aggressive stuff is they've manipulated something. They've done something that is negative towards you, but sometimes you don't really know that they've done that.
You don't realize it.
You don't realize that they did it. It's not like this active aggressive where they're like hitting somebody. And they might be, putting X-Lax in your brownies. You never know what they're going to do.
That is just never good.
No, I've seen and heard all kinds of stuff. And so I'm not giving people ideas, but this is not a working thing in a relationship. Both people need to have their needs met. Both people should have a voice in the relationship, and we both sacrifice at a compromising degree.
We did a series sometime this year on Lying. I think it was at the beginning of the year, January, right? Their podcasts are here on tantalknetwork.com. Go to podcast, go to Go Yard. We did a whole series on lying and how a white lie, or when you're just trying to please somebody just so there's no conflict, no problem at all, comes back to bite you.
It sure does.
Because if you're not honest, that whole series was about really being honest. And I think correct me if I'm wrong, one of the main problems with codependency is people are not really telling them what they feel. They're telling what they think those people want to hear.
Exactly. Bingo. Bingo.
Whoa, I had 2 tonight?
You did.
Oh, no, 1 was yours, Mike. Okay, 1 and 1.
1 to 1.
1 to 1. I mean, and when we're trying just to say the things that we know are going to bring a reward of some kind, or we are doing everything we can to bend over backwards and please someone, it only in the long run hurts you.
Lots of resentment.
It's lying.
It is.
It's not being honest. Maybe it's not actually lying, but it's not being totally honest.
We're not being honest with self. We're not being honest with the other person. And, here's going to be the problem. We're going to be really mad, and they're going to have no clue.
Right. And that's what happens.
Exactly.
Number 5, I don't know how to deal with my feelings.
That's a big one. A lot of times people in codependency, their feelings are big, and they don't know how to deal with those feelings. And so, we are going to experience the full spectrum of feelings, from negative ones to happy ones to everything in the middle. And that's not because we're broken or something's wrong with us. It's because we're human and we live in a world where we have all of our feelings. And so they don't know how to deal with them. So they don't, and they
just stuff
stuff
them.
it.
And so,
or drink it, or substance use. Or...
So it's easier if I don't want to deal with my feelings because I'm afraid of making him or her upset with me.
Exactly.
And so I can't really deal with that. So I can't acknowledge it because I don't want to deal with it because I don't want to rock the boat. And so if I don't know how to deal with it, then I stuff it. Right. And later, I've told this on the air so many times. I know I have. But when I'm a realtor, and when I was a fairly new realtor, I went on listing appointment, and it's these people in their early 90s.
Okay.
And so sweet. I still remember their names and everything, and right where they lived and everything. So I was taking the tour of the house before I did the paperwork, and they got in the kitchen, and over the sink was a sign that said, "He who stuffeth puffeth." I've never forgotten that sign that I saw. And I looked at it and laughed. And they said, "What's funny about that?" And I said, "No wonder you've been married so long." They've been married 70-some years at that point, right?
Wow.
And they said, "Yes, we live by that. We have always lived by that. That's why it's right over the kitchen sink where we do dishes."
Wow.
So if we have something, George and Margaret, I'll never forget these people, so sweet. If we have something that we're upset about, we have to talk it out.
We do have to talk
And
about
I thought, whoa, and you're 91, 92, whatever they were at that point, getting ready to sell their house and go to assisted living. And yet they had figured out how to make that relationship work all those years. Do you want to?
It's all about that.
I've teed it up for you.
You did tee it up. It's about that healthy, honest communication.
Yes, it is.
And talking about those feelings when I'm feeling sad, or my feelings are hurt, or I'm whatever, disappointed, fill in the blank, and talking honestly and openly about those feelings.
But codependents, correct me if I'm wrong, don't want to acknowledge the feelings because that may make that partner not love them as much, or they may back away from them if they think they're upset. They may leave if they think I'm upset about something, correct?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And so when you are living in that your emotional needs are met from this other person, you become a hostage to that person.
Oh,
emotionally.
Hostage, yeah.
Right? So you are going to deny your needs, your wants, your feelings. You're going to deny all kinds of stuff to make sure that this person is here. You're going to overextend yourself in taking care of their needs and their wants.
Because you think that if you let them know how you really feel, and really you don't want to go to Olive Garden one more time this week, right? and if you tell them that, then they're not going to get to go where they want to go.
And then we've rocked the boat.
And that's just not good.
Yeah, when we're in codependency,
we got to make sure everybody's okay. Here's another pet peeve of mine. Okay, you ready? They meet and they've dated 5 times, 10 times, and they're ready to get married.
Or they're already moving in together. Oh yes.
Right?
Yep.
What's wrong with that picture?
Yeah. I am a firm believer, and you have to walk all seasons with a person before you even can think about making that decision.
All seasons meaning fall, winter, spring, and summer.
We
don't have winter here.
Doesn't mean that it's at least a year, but meaning that you need to walk through seasons of life.
You have to.
Right. Because people can be anything for a short period of time.
Yeah.
Most of these relationships that they are short term and then they cohabitate or get married or whatever, fall apart rather quickly, because as soon as I do happens, then the real person can come out.
Yeah.
And, we have to walk this
season. And this series is very important, folks, in a day and age of online dating, I think. Because there's a reason somebody's been on that website for 7 years.
Very true.
Right? And codependent people can be so needy that they'll just settle for about anything and then make a mistake and either move in together, get married quickly, whatever the case may be, and really suffer from that.
Very much suffer. They can suffer emotionally, they can suffer financially, like they can suffer in so many ways. It's risky.
Right.
That's why slowing it down is really important, because when my emotional value is not based on this person, I know what it's based on, then I'm not so desperate for them. I can see them a little bit more clear.
Don't you think neediness just reeks out of some people?
Oh, yeah.
The codependent people, neediness just reeks out of them.
It really does. And that's why I said they're vulnerable to be taken advantage of.
And if you're one of these and you're beginning to recognize some traits in yourself, and maybe you've met somebody online, whatever, what's wrong with doing a background check, Dr. Angel?
We should be doing, we should be doing background checks and being safe. And when people tell us things, we can't just make excuses like, oh, I've had 7 wives and I haven't spoke to my kids in 30 years. And but it's all their fault. They're all the crazy ones.
Yeah, my kids want nothing to do with me, but I'm fine.
Start looking, stop making excuses.
Right.
And really look at people more clearly and honestly.
We haven't even begun to touch the surface of this. Because we're deep, as we do on Go Yard, we dig deep into a topic, right? Why?
Because it's the way we get down to the root of it and really make it practical and a topic that's going to help our listeners identify it, get through it, get help, and do better for themselves.
You can contact Dr. Angel by going to her website, drangelsdevelopment.com. You can set appointments there. And you've just expanded the practice already in 2 years, taking on a new counselor, etc., and growing the practice. And it's amazing. Yeah, her practice is in the front of our church building, 2058 Weaver Park Drive in Clearwater. And we have a Sunday show that 14 years we talked about earlier.
Yes.
Sunday afternoon at 3 p.m. You're on that from time to time. And we just really enjoy doing that. Show's all about God and how to live a victorious life. But this is all about counseling and life coaching, isn't it? It is. And we need the balance. We need both.
Balance. It is about balance. So we've had an amazing show tonight, I just want to say.
We have.
We really have.
So I think it's nitty gritty. It's been pretty nitty gritty. Do you want to sum it up? Whatever your name is, I never know.
Oh, I know you don't know my name. I just want to leave our listeners with this. I love that a listener posted trust but verify. That's very important.
Trust but verify. Somebody just put that on Facebook.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Important.
That's right.
But I want to leave I don't want them to go away saying, man, I do these things. I must be codependent and now I'm feeling worse about myself. You can get through this. You can get help. You can get strong and not be that way.
Absolutely. You want to tune in next week because we're going to have part 4 of this series. This one may be one of those that goes on for a real long time. Join us again next week, 6:06 p.m. right here on this station. Join us on Sunday afternoon at 3 p.m. for Living the Good Life. And Dr. Angel, I just remember your name since you told me. It's been a good show. And you can contact us. Go to our Facebook page where we just recorded this live. And you can ask questions right there. And Dr. Angel will be happy to answer them. God bless every one of you. We're going to see you next week. See ya. Bye.
Good night.